ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामीनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा। रीडिंग फ्रॉम श्रीमद् भागवतम। बाय हिज डिवाइन ग्रेस इसे भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। We are reading from Canto 4, Chapter 25, the characteristic of King Puranjan. Mudit Krishna Prabhu, till where we covered yesterday?
This was 11, 12, and 13.
11, 12, and 13. Yeah. So, Narad Muni, the way amazing spiritual master he is, he begins his narration and he describes that Puranjan was a king, Itihasam Puratanam, from a long time. It's a very, very old history. He was looking for a suitable place to live, and finally he became morose and disappointed even after traveling all over the world. Srila Prabhupada writes very elaborate, brilliant purport there. So, and describes that generally the living entity is wandering here and there. Abrahma bhuvana loka punaravartinorjana. And the point here is that all planets, there are living entities. So the modern understanding that only earth is there where there is only life and there is no life anywhere else apart from earth is not supported by the shastras, right? We talk of pitraloka and many other things. Later when we come to the fifth canto, we will be hearing the prayers of the residents of so many different planetary systems, right? So science is going to take a long time to reach to that point. Text 12. न साधु मेनेता सर्वाभूतले गावती पुरः कामान् कामं कामाय मानोऽसौ यस्य तस्योपपत्तये. Translation.
King Puranjana had unlimited desires for sense enjoyment. Consequently, he traveled all over the world to find a place where all his desires could be fulfilled. Unfortunately, he found a feeling of insufficiency everywhere. Should I
Yeah.
continue with the purport, Prabhuji?
No. So, unlimited desires for sense enjoyment. And he traveled all over the world. And Srila Prabhupada quotes Vidyapati that, material sense gratification, society, friendship, love, everything else. One is looking for everything, but still there is, unfortunately, he found a feeling of insufficiency everywhere. So, point here is that when we miss Krishna, when we miss the spiritual life, then whatever kind of things we have, we will never feel satisfied. Right? It is as simple, the beautiful example given by Srila Prabhupada as fish out of water. So, you just take fish out of water and try to give him all different types of gratification, the fish will never be satisfied. And this was the condition of Puranjan. He was. And more the desire one has, more one will be wandering Brahmatam Upariyada. And therefore, it is a good training in spiritual life not to have excessive desires. That doesn't mean we become desireless. That is Shunyavad. That doesn't mean that we become, less ambitious or something like that. No. Age appropriate, one has to be ambitious. At the same time, one should also keep in mind the plan of the Lord and the our spiritual identity. Later, somewhere in the purport, Srila Prabhupada gives the example of elephant, okay, and the fish. Fish example is a terrific example, right? We have to realize this example more and more. Again, this has to be age appropriate. One one must have proper desires in the beginning. But Bhagavad Gita describes this. Apuryamana achara pratishtham samudramapaha pravishanti yadvat. Tadvat kamayam pravishanti sarve sa shanti mapnoti na kama kami. That one has to tolerate one's desires. Apurnamanam. Right. Text 13. स एकदा हिमवतो दक्षिणे त्यश्व सानुषु ददर्श नवभिर्द्वारभिः पुरं लक्षितलक्षणाम्. Translation.
Once while wandering in this way, he saw on the southern side of the Himalayas, in a place named Bharatavarsha, India, a city that had 9 gates all about and was characterized by all auspicious facilities.
Yes. So when he was wandering everywhere, suddenly he came across a city, and that city he found it in Bharatavarsha, that is southern side of the Himalayas, and the city was named as Navadvarapura. Navadvare Puri Dehi. Okay. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains that tract of Bharatavarsha is not some modern invention. It is already explained in so many shastras. Nation as a concept is not something evolved after Britishers ruled us. Nation is not a British gift to India. No. The very word Rashtra we have seen in the Prithvi Charitra, the very word, the Pura Rachana, that planning of the cities that Prithu Maharaj was very famous for. So Bharatvarsha always existed, right? Even the word Hindu always existed. Sanatan always existed. Sometimes, of course, we offer explanation that the Abrahamics who attacked India, invaders, they could not pronounce Sindhu and they pronounced Hindu. But the word Hindu itself is also mentioned in the Shastras, right? So, the Bharatavarsha, and it is said that full auspicious facilities, all auspicious facilities. Why? Because Prabhupada writes here that to take birth in Bharatavarsha is considered to be very, very rare. Brahmanda Brahmite, kon bhagyavan jeev, Manushya Janma. So first to receive Manushya Janma is rare, and then receive the Manushya Janma in Bharat Bhumi is considered even more rare. Now we all are Indians, and we see all Indians around. Our Sabjiwala is Indian, electrician is Indian, plumber is Indian. So we may not value Indians so much, but and they themselves may not value so much. But receiving birth in India is considered to be extremely rare. Just like many times devotees who take birth in devotee families don't value their birth so much, just squander away by neglect or procrastination. Similarly, this is the tendency that we don't value what we have obtained after a great endeavor. And this facility, human life in India, will provide full facility to develop one's goal of the human form of life. And then Srila Prabhupada describes that great personalities have appeared here, like Lord Lord Ramachandra, Yudhishthir Maharaj, so on and so forth. And then there is a descriptions of 3 kinds of miseries: Adhyatmika, Adhibhautika, Daivika. Lakshita Lakshanam, that very auspicious to receive human form of life here. And then Srila Prabhupada says, if the Westerners and Indians, if they can come together, it will be good for both India and the Western world. India is like the lame man. Western civilization is like the blind to the goal to the human form of life. So if the blind man, who is a strong and stroudy, the way the Western culture is, takes the old man on his shoulders, then the blind man can show the direction and the strong man can walk and both can reach. Combined, they may work hard and thus they both will reach the desired destination. Otherwise, the fellow who is blind and strong, he will harm everyone and himself, and fellow who can see very well but lame, there is no use of he seeing very well, right? And this is how. So what it means is that we have to take the Shastrik Shastra Chakshu plus the modern facilities and combine them to propagate Krishna consciousness, right? And then Srila Prabhupada describes how the body is called as city of nine gates. Right? There are nine holes to the body, and therefore it is called as Navadware Pure Dehi. Two eyes, two ears, two nostrils, one mouth, genital and rectum. These are the nine gates of a clean and when the nine gates are clean and working properly, it is understood that body is healthy. In India, these nine gates are kept clean by the villagers who rise early in the morning, bathe in the well or river, go to the temples, attend Mangalarti, chant Hare Krishna, and take prasad. In this way, one can take advantage of the facilities of the human form of life. Prabhupada writes. Right. And then Srila Prabhupada compares India and the Western civilization to the blind man and lame man. So now we come to text 14. प्राकारो उपवनान्तालपरिकैरक्षतोरणैः स्वर्णरोप्ययसैः शृङ्गैः सङ्कुलां सर्वतो गृहैः. Translation.
That city was surrounded by walls and parks, and within it were towers, canals, windows, and outlets. The houses were decorated with domes made of gold, silver, and iron. Hare Krishna.
Shall we cover this as well?
No, no,
No,
Prabhu.
no.
Oh,
Yeah, please
sorry,
continue.
I'll continue with the
Purport.
purport. Purport. The body is protected by walls of skin. The hairs on the body are compared to parks, and the highest parts of the body, like the nose and head, are compared to the towers. The wrinkles and depressions on different parts of body are compared to trenches or canals, and the eyes are compared to windows. The eyelids are compared to protective gates. The three types of metal, gold, silver, and iron, represent the three modes of material nature. Gold represents goodness, silver, passion, and iron, ignorance. The body is also sometimes considered to be a bag containing three elements, three dhatu, mucus, bile, and air, kapha, pitta, and vayu. Yasmat buddhi kunape three dhatuke. According to Bhagavatam 10.84.13, one who considers this bag of mucus, bile, and air to be the self is considered no better than a cow or an ass. Hare Krishna.
So this Navadware Puryadehi, the city, is being explained here. The city has nine gates. So the nine gates are explained. Now the city was surrounded by the walls and the parks. Right. Within it were the towers and the canals, windows and the outlets. Houses there were decorated with domes like gold, silver, and iron. What a beautiful analogy by Narada Muni. Right? So now Puranjan, he acquired the city. That means the living entity comes and takes the fortunate city of the human form of life, especially in the Bharatavarsha, right? And by mercy of Srila Prabhupada, even the Puranjans who are acquiring Paschatya Desha Tarini, the cities away from Bharatavarsha also, Srila Prabhupada made them also very fortunate by making Krishna consciousness available in every city and village across the globe. It's a huge contribution, huge phenomenon. In the Vaishnava history, in the human history, there is no parallel to this kind of outreach of Vedic knowledge, where 500 million books are already sold on spirituality, genuine spirituality, right? So the body is compared to the city, and the walls of this walls, what is the protecting wall? That is the skin. What is the park? That is the hairs on the body. And what are the towers? They are the nose, head, which are the raised part. They are the towers. They are compared to towers. Wrinkles and depressions, they are compared to the trenches and the canals. Eyes are compared to the windows. And eyelids are compared to the protective gates. Right. And there are three types of metals: gold, silver, and iron. And the houses were decorated with gold, silver, and iron. That is the three modes of material natures. And also it is Tridhatuke, Kapha, Vata, Pitta. And, and this is how the living entity is entered in that body. Correct. Now this is the story of King Puranjan. Text 15. Neelaspatika Vaidurya Mukta Amaratarunaihi Kliptaramyasthalim Diptam Shriya Bhogavati Bhiva. Translation.
Doors of the houses in that city were made of sapphire, crystal, diamonds, pearls, emeralds, and rubies. Because of the luster of the houses in the capital, the city was compared to the celestial town named Bhogavati. Purport. In the city of the body, the heart is considered to be the capital, just as the capital of a state is especially gorgeously filled with various high buildings and lustrous palaces. The heart of the body is filled with various desires and plans for material enjoyment. Such plans are sometimes compared to valuable jewels such as sapphire, rubies, pearls, and emeralds. The heart becomes the center for all planning for material enjoyment.
Yeah. So the floors were made up of sapphire and crystal, while the luster of the houses in the capital looked like the celestial town named Bhogavati. So there is a town which is Bhogavati, Amaravati. These are the celestial towns. Nandan Kanan Gardens. All this we are going to visit in the fifth canto. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains the heart is compared to the capital, and just like the capital of the state is gorgeously filled with very high buildings. Suddenly you go to Mumbai or Delhi, you realize that you are in a different place. Similarly, the heart is filled with so many plans and desires. So these plans are compared to valuable jewels and such as sapphire, right? Heart becomes the center of all the planning for the material enjoyment. And this is how he had a heart full of desire. This is the explanation of heart full of desire. The previous verse was the explanation of general body, and this verse is the explanation of heart full of desires. Text 16. Radhyabhir Akredat Yatanapanaihi Chaitya Patakaabhir Yuktam Vidurma Vedavihi. Translation.
Krishna. In that city, there were many assembly houses, street crossings, streets, restaurants, gambling houses, markets, resting places, flags, festoons, and beautiful parks. All these surrounded the city. Purport. In this way, the capital is described. In the capital, there were There are assembly houses and many squares, many street crossings, avenues, and streets. Many gambling places, markets, places of rest, all decorated with flags and festoons. The squares are surrounded with railings and are divided of trees. The heart of the body can be compared to the assembly house, for the living entities within the heart, along with the Paramatma, and thus the heart is center of all remembrance, forgetfulness, and deliberation. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 15.15, Sarvasya Chaham Hridisannivishto Matta Smritir Gnanam Apohanam Cha. In the body, the eyes, ears, nose are different places of attraction for sense enjoyment, and the streets are going hither and thither, may be compared to the different types of air blowing within the body. The yogic process for controlling the air within the body and the different nerves is called Sushumma, the path of liberation. The body is also resting place because the living entity becomes fatigued. As fatigued, he takes rest within the body. The palms and the soles of the feet are compared to flags and festoons. Thank you.
So now this Navadvarapuri is further explained here. There were many assembly houses, streets crossings, and flags and festoons, and beautiful parks. Right. So the capital is being described here. The heart is compared to the assembly house. Right. Why the assembly house? The living entity is there along with the Paramatma, Avidnyat Sakha. There he is residing. And then there were many streets going here and there. And these streets are nothing but the Pancha Prana, Vyana, Samana, Udana. And these are the Pancha Prana which are flowing across the city, across the body. And then there is, Prabhupada writes here, the yogic process of controlling the air through the different nerves is called as Sushumna, the path of liberation. So there are, if you go and study the body, they said that there are 72,000 nadis. And then if you consider all the Upanadi and etc., they go to as long as 72,000, then 72 crores, and so on and so forth. Right. So there are yogis who can control, various veins can be controlled to attain a particular siddhi. And the palms and the soles, they are compared to the flags and the festoons. Pataka, Dvaja Pataka. Okay, just shake your palms and just make them shake as Dvaja Pataka. Okay, shake your legs and make them. You feel that it is Dvaja Pataka, right? They look like Dvaja Pataka actually. If you see it, they look like Dvaja Pataka. Text 17. Puryasto Payap Upavane Divya Drumalata Krute Nadadvihavritam Krahu Kolahala Jalashaye. Translation.
On the outskirts of that city were many beautiful trees and creepers encircling a nice lake. Also surrounding that lake were many groups of birds and bees that were always chanting and humming. Purport: since the body is a great city, there must be various arrangements such as lakes and gardens for sense enjoyment. Of the various parts of the body, those which incite sensual impulses are referred to here indirectly. Because the body has genitals, when the living entity attains the right age, be he man or woman, he becomes agitated by the sensual impulse. As long as one remains a child, he is not agitated by seeing a beautiful woman. Although the sense organs are present, unless the age is ripe, there is no sensual impulse. The favorable conditions surrounding the sensual impulse are compared here to a garden or a nice solitary park. When one sees the opposite sex, naturally the sex impulse increases. It is said that if a man is in a solitary place, does not become agitated upon seeing a woman, he is to be considered a brahmachari. But this practice is almost impossible. The The sensual impulse is so strong that even by seeing, touching, or talking, coming into contact with, or even thinking of the opposite sex, even in so many subtle ways, one becomes sensually impelled. Consequently, a brahmachari or sannyasi is prohibited to associate with women, especially in secret place. The Shastras enjoin that one should not even talk to a woman in a secret place, even if she happens to be one's own daughter, sister, or mother. The sensual impulse is so strong that even if one is very learned, he becomes agitated in such circumstances. If this is the case, how can a young man in a nice park remain calm and quiet after seeing a beautiful young woman?
Now, within the gates, within the city, on the outskirts of that city, there were many beautiful trees and the creepers encircling a nice lake. And then there were many groups of the birds and bees. They're filled with chanting and humming around. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains, since the body is a great city, there are various arrangements like lakes and the gardens for the sense enjoyment. And and naturally, there is the sensual impulse that is being referred by this description. The body has the genitals, and when the living entity attains a right age, then they will be accordingly agitated. Right. And then, therefore, Prabhupada writes that, that in the when somebody is small, the age is there, although the organs are present, but the impulse will not be there, which will be activated at the right age. And therefore one has to be really careful what children watch on the, because in the previously everything private remained private, but nowadays because of mobile, because of the television, more than television, mobile, and more than mobile, the internet, right? Internet, there is extreme dirty things which is called as child pornography, and I mean, people are addicted to it. So one has to be very careful that parental lock and all other things are very important for the children and for the parents also nowadays. Okay, so one has to be watchful of what our children and we are consuming. It's very important. So just like in a city, there are gates and the nice solitary parks for the young couples to meet. So that is being explained here. And then Srila Prabhupada gives a warning that the safe distance between the genders has to be maintained. Right. Otherwise, conditioning is very, very normal. One should not consider oneself liberated, experienced, or transcendental. One has to follow the basic Vaishnava etiquette when one is dealing with the opposite gender. It's very important. It's important for the man, it's important for the woman. And Prabhupada very clearly writes, what is the duty of a brahmachari? What is the duty of a sannyasi? And what is the duty of a grihastha? One should not think one is liberated or experienced and nothing happens. Shastras are too extremely strong. Shastras describe, later this will come, in Bhagavatam only it comes. What is that verse? Yeah. Matra swastra duhitrava na vivikta suno bhavet balavan indriya gramo vidvan apisa karishati. Right. This is Bhagavatam verse. So, not going in the detailed explanation of this verse, but the point here is that one has to be careful. One has to take the due precaution what is being advised in the Shastras. When Srila Prabhupada went to the Western world, Prabhupada realized that it is impossible to differentiate between man and woman, and not giving diksha to the woman. And till Siddhanta Saraswati, there was no diksha to women specifically, right? But Srila Prabhupada introduced that. There was no question of Brahman diksha to woman. Srila Prabhupada introduced that. So directly services in the temple, Srila Prabhupada introduced that. At the same time, one has to be careful in following the Vaishnava etiquette, especially the dealings between the opposite genders. So we will conclude here and continue tomorrow. Srila Prabhupada ki jai,
Jai.
Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, everyone. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Prabhupada.
Prabhuji.
Thank
Hare
you, Prabhupada.
Krishna.
Thank you, everyone. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Prabhupada.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhupada.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Prabhupada. Thank you,
Thank you,
Prabhuji.
Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, everyone. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Thank
Thank you
Krishna.
everyone. Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Thank you,
Hare Krishna,
Prabhuji. Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Shabbat Pranam.